Once your budget has been approved, these are your next steps you should take before making a purchase. For conference and event registration, if it's processed before the event and the payment needs to be sent directly to the vendor, you need an A114 form shown above, made payable to the vendor with the vendor address, description, and signed by your advisor and treasurer. A vendor invoice is also needed, and a copy of the travel authorization form signed by your advisor and treasurer. If the registration payment needs to be made with a credit card, fill out a purchase order and credit card request worksheet with the vendor's name, address, phone number, and website. A vendor invoice is needed, a copy of the travel authorization form signed by the advisor and treasurer as well. It's up to the financial administrator on how an order will be processed. Make sure to ask vendors if they will accept a purchase order or a credit card. Relay this information to the financial administrator. When placing an order online, you have to make sure the vendor does not charge sales tax. Fill out a purchase order and credit card request worksheet. You'll have to come into our office and use our computers. Set up your account under the University of Cincinnati using our university login and password. This will be provided by the financial administrator. Save your order in the wish list or shopping cart and log out. Once the financial administrator gets a chance, they will log onto the website and place the order you saved with the wish list or shopping cart. When entering in your information, make sure you have your item shipped to a UC campus address. Items cannot be shipped to a home address. If you are ordering apparel, fill out a purchase order and credit card request worksheet. Have your advisor and treasurer sign the form. You also need to attach a copy of the design and an approval letter emailed to you from licensing and branding, even if you're not using a UC logo. The vendor quote or invoice is also needed. If you're paying for items yourself using your personal funds and getting reimbursed, you must have the original itemized receipts with no copies, and you must have it turned in within 10 days of your purchase. If a credit card was used, you must also include a copy of your bank statement showing the purchase, and your advisor and treasurer must sign and fill out an A114 form, which will include your name, address, M number, amount to be reimbursed, detailed payment description, and signatures of your advisor and treasurer. If the reimbursement is for food, you'll also have to include a list of those who ate or a copy of a flyer email showing there was food provided at an event. Remember, UC is tax exempt. You will not be reimbursed on sales tax. So if your sales receipt shows sales tax, this will be deducted from your reimbursement. This is the sales tax certificate used to prove that UC is tax exempt. If your reimbursement is for food that you have purchased, you must include a list of those who ate, or a copy of the flyer and advertisement that you used to advertise your event, and an itemized receipt. This is the form used for getting reimbursed. Students use their M number, not their social security number. Non-UC students use their social security number. An A113 form is used for travel reimbursements. An A114 form is used for all other reimbursements. This is a copy center form. It must be used every time you want to make copies for an organization or event. This form must be signed by your advisor if you are using operating funds. When picking up your order, the pink copy that is given to you must be returned to your financial administrator right away. All events that are held on Main Street, TUC, Stratford Heights, Fifth Third Arena are required to use Classic Fare Catering. Come into our office and use our computers, or go online and fill out their order form. This form is needed when you are having an event on campus or if your event will have alcohol. It is up to public safety to let you know if security will be needed at your event. They will give you an estimated cost and you will submit this with your funding request. This form is used when paying an individual for services, such as a performer, individual person, not a company, a speaker. This form should be filled out by the individual along with their invoice. So the treasurer should fill out an A114 request or payment form, and the form should include the vendor's name and address, vendor tax ID or social security number, amount to be paid, complete description for payment, an advisor and treasurer signature, a limited services engagement form signed by the vendor, vendor's invoice, which must have their name, address, phone number, and payment terms. If you are using an A114 request for payment envelope, make sure you jot down the A114 numbers in red for your records. This number is needed if you want to check on the status of a payment. If the vendor does not have an invoice, you can use a template found in Microsoft Word to create one. Do not sign a contract for any reason. If you do, you are liable and not the university. Ask the vendor if they will accept a purchase order that is signed by our purchasing department. Also keep in mind that it could take up to 8 weeks or more to get a contract processed. These are the steps to take if a vendor requires a contract to be signed. First, submit a purchase order or credit card request worksheet. Second, attach the vendor's contract. Third, all contracts should be reviewed by your advisor. Fourth, advisor and treasurer has to sign the purchase order and credit card worksheet. Once the purchase order and credit card request worksheet is processed by the financial administrator, it can take up to 8 weeks or more to get the contract and purchase order approved. These are steps a contract goes through to be processed. It has to go through your advisor, the Director of Student Activities and Leadership Development, the Director of Business Affairs, the Provost Office, Purchasing, General Counsel, Accounts Payable. That is why it takes up to 8 weeks or more to process a contract, so plan ahead. Again, it is up to the financial administrator on how an order will be processed. Make sure to ask the vendors if they'll accept a purchase order or a credit card. Relay that information to the financial administrator. If you do feel like you need to sign a contract, do not do it without discussing it with SALD. Stop into our office and we will help work you through the process. These are the forms and steps needed when requesting travel. First, the travel authorization form must be filled out by your treasurer and signed by your advisor and treasurer. Don't forget to include a travel roster with your students' M numbers. When requesting lodging, this form has to be filled out. You will have to contact the hotel to make your reservations. Get the confirmation number and list that confirmation number on the worksheet. Make sure you list check-in and check-out dates. Have the hotel fax or email you a credit card authorization form. Attach the credit card authorization form to the worksheet. Attach a copy of your travel authorization and roster. In order to rent vehicles, you can fill out a University Transportation Services rental form. Your advisor has to sign this form. All drivers must be 21 years old to drive and must take an online test, print out the certificate at the end of the test, and attach it to the University Transportation Services rental form. Make copies of the certificate and keep them for your records, because this certificate has to be turned in each time you request a rental vehicle, and this form is good for 1 year. Turn the form in to the financial administrator along with your travel authorization form, roster, and driving certificates. When you pick up your vehicle, you will be given paperwork from Transportation Services. It is your responsibility to turn in this paperwork back to SALD financial administrators at most 3 days after your trip. If you lose or forget the paperwork given to you, you will have to contact Transportation Services to get copies. If this paperwork is not turned into the financial administrator, your group will not be able to rent another vehicle until this paperwork is received. No exceptions. If lost, it is the organization's responsibility to contact Transportation Services to get a copy. Regarding reimbursement for travel expenses to an individual. All paperwork and requests for reimbursement has to be turned into the financial administrator within 10 working days after your trip. Reimbursements are processed in the same way academic travel reimbursements are processed. This is called an E160 process, and only one reimbursement can happen per student per semester. Once reimbursements are processed, it takes up to 6 weeks to receive those funds. Students who owe on their tuition bill will be refunded, and that amount will go to their outstanding bill. Students must be enrolled to receive the reimbursement. Tips for student organizations traveling and using members' credit cards for reimbursements on things such as gas. Rotate the member who pays per trip so reimbursements can be processed per member after each trip. Pay for as many travel transactions, lodging, and registration fees up front using the purchase order and credit card request worksheet. If the reimbursement is not travel related, and then it goes directly to the student. If the student is on payroll and has direct deposit, it will be deposited into the account into which their payroll is deposited. If not on payroll, then they will receive a check. You will take these steps. Fill out an A113 travel expense report form. You will include the traveler's name, address, and M number, the destinations, the travel type, the date of transportation, other expenses, and the total. This will need to be signed by the traveler, advisor, and treasurer. Make sure you have all of your itemized receipts showing proof of payment. A copy of your credit card or bank statement if payment was with a credit card, and a copy of the travel authorization form and roster. Reimbursement to a student, group, or organization after a trip will be processed on an A114 form request. This form has to be filled out with the organization or group name, the address, where the check should be mailed, the amount to be reimbursed, a detailed payment description, signatures of advisor and treasurer, copy of the travel authorization form and roster, and details itemized receipts which must have the following: vendor information, their name, address, and phone number, the date of transaction, the items purchased, the amount, and the method of payment. No alcohol can be reimbursed. If you paid with a credit card, you must include a copy of the credit card or bank statement. For individual reimbursement, we must reiterate that each student can only be reimbursed for travel one time per semester. This is a copy of the A113 travel form for reimbursement. All of the forms that are found in this presentation can be found on CampusLink by going to campuslink.uc.edu or in the SALD office in 455 and 655 Steger Student Life Center. Remember, plan ahead and don't wait until the last minute.